Groveland. Do you know what's up? We do. I'm Beth Greenhagen.
And I'm Rich York.
And we're back for our 6th episode to give you hyper-local news and updates about Groveland. This April at Groveland annual town meetings, residents will be voting a new zoning plan to address the state's Section 30A housing initiative, also known as the MBTA law. The law requires Groveland and all other towns with MBTA services, such as subway or commuter rail, and any town next to a town with these services, to change their zoning to allow more multi-family housing. Depending on its population and where the services are located, each town must allow a specific number of housing increases through its zoning. Towns are not required to build anything, but the new law allows more housing to be built by property owners in the designated areas. At town meeting, the planning board will present a plan to meet the state's requirements for Groveland, including zoning changes for a district that would allow a capacity for at least 130 multi-family units. Town-owned property is not eligible to be used as a district. A town size and location determine the amount of zoned additional units, and Groveland has one of the smallest amount of additional units to be zoned for. This change does not force property owners to remove homes. It does not change the need to comply with other regulations like Title V or wetland protection laws. Please learn as much as you can about what we'll vote on in April by checking out the website at community.net, ASSOCLTD.com/Groveland. You can also call the town administrator at 978-556-7204 for any questions about this change. And now we have an important announcement for you.
Hello, my name is Miles Booth and I'm a 6th grader at Bagnell School. I'm here to tell you about Shrek, our spring play. Once upon a time, in a faraway swamp, there lived an ogre named Shrek, whose precious solitude was suddenly shattered by an invasion of annoying fairy tale creatures. They were all banished from their kingdom by the evil Lord Farquaad. Determined to save their home, not to mention his, Shrek cuts a deal with Farquaad and sets out to rescue Princess Fiona to be Farquaad's bride. Rescuing the princess may be small compared to her deep, dark secret. The story is based on William Steig's book, published in 1990. The play will be presented 3 times, Friday, March 28th at 7 p.m., and Saturday, March 29th at 11 a.m., and again at 1:30 p.m. Tickets will be available soon at bagnell.prsd.org or by calling the school at 978-372-8856. Come and see this performance. Oh, I forgot to tell you, you must come and see it and find out who's playing Shrek.
Thank you, Miles. It's that time of year again to volunteer for elected and appointed town positions. There are several open elected positions, including the Board of Assessors, Select Board, Board of Health, Library Trustee, Cemetery Commission, Light Commission, Housing Authority, School Committee, Water and Sewer Commissions, Moderator, and Town Clerk. There are also many open appointed positions on town boards and committees. If you are interested, the first step is to talk to our town clerk at Town Hall and learn how to apply. You can check out the open appointed positions on the town's website at grovelandma.com. Remember, our town could not function without volunteers. Your service is incredibly valuable to Groveland, so please consider becoming a volunteer.
The Friends of BC Park will be holding their annual indoor flea market this month on Saturday, March 29th from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. at BC Park, located at 201 Washington Street. Admission is free and everyone is welcome. The Friends are expecting at least 60 crafters, many antique dealers, and folks selling all sorts of treasures. Participants can rent a table by contacting Claire Walsh at 978-376-6779 or at Claire W1401 at AOL.com. Check out the flea market where all proceeds are used by the Friends to benefit and support VC Park.
Another zone change to be voted on at our town meeting in April addresses the state change to allow ADUs, or accessory dwelling units. The planning board will present changes to our zoning bylaws to comply with the state requirements. Thanks to legislation signed by Governor Healy, property owners now have the option to add a new rental apartment in their home or on their property. So what exactly is an ADU? ADUs can be internal within an existing primary residence, like converting a basement into an apartment, attached to a primary residence as a new construction addition, or completely detached, like a cottage or converted detached garage in a backyard. The maximum size of any ADU is no more than half the gross floor area of the principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. Now that you know what an ADU is, prepare to see a few additional requirements the planning board will propose for ADUs at town meeting.
The Groveland Conservation Commission and the Groveland Recreation Committee are seeking volunteers to help maintain town trails in 2025. This stewardship program is offered annually for any town resident in supporting the many miles of trails in our town. You can volunteer for one day, one project, one site, or the whole season. As a lead volunteer, you can be a steward in charge of maintaining a trail for the season with the help of other volunteers. Trail sites include Meadow Pond Reservation, Town Forest Reservation, Center Street Greenway, VC Park, Merrimack River Trails, and the Community Trail. Maintenance may include posting trail markers, repairing bridges, posting trail signs, and clearing trails. If you are interested, please contact the Commission at 978-556-7205 or concom@grovelandma.com. Be sure to leave your name, contact number, and your availability.
March 8th marks International Women's Day, a global celebration of women's achievements across social, economic, cultural, and political life. It is also a time to recognize progress and the ongoing journey towards equality. This year's theme, Accelerate Action, encourages individuals and communities to take meaningful steps, big or small, to support and uplift women. Whether it's through mentorship, education, or simply acknowledging the contributions of women in our lives, every action helps create a more inclusive and supportive world. To celebrate this important day, the Groveland COA invites you to Empowered Voices, a Women's Day panel discussion, a special event bringing together local women who are making an impact in Groveland and beyond. This engaging discussion will highlight resilience, leadership, and the power of shared experiences. Panelists will include high school senior Nia Gordon, small business developer Sarah Tavadian, Town Administrator Rebecca Oldham, Reverend Donna Spencer Collins from the Congregational Church, and Barbara Sanborn, Chair of the Groveland COA Board. The discussion will be guided by GCN's Elaine Tamizian Muse, an active member of the Groveland community, and feature an open Q&A session giving attendees the opportunity to engage in meaningful conversation. Join us on Saturday, March 8th at 2 p.m. at VZ Park. To reserve a seat, visit the website on the screen now. For more information, contact the Groveland COA at 978-372-1101 or email coa@grovelandma.com. Join us as we celebrate the strength, wisdom, and resilience of women in our community.
I'm looking forward to it, Rich. Walkers in town have experienced some challenges negotiating the ice and snow covered sidewalks this winter. GCN reached out to Arthur Marcos, the Town of Groveland's Programs and Projects Manager, for more information on snow removal. He reported that the highway department staff now clear 7.5 miles of the 27 total miles of sidewalk in town, as well as the rail trails. They focus on the sidewalks on the main roads and public areas, but there are some areas that are obstructed. For example, by utility poles, so sidewalk plows cannot be used. Mr. Marcos said that he is working on a winter road maintenance plan for the town that will be released in the coming months. According to Town Administrator Rebecca Oldham, a warrant article has been proposed to adopt a mass general law making homeowners responsible for clearing the sidewalks on their property. The 4 people making up the highway department staff prioritize clearing roadways, she said, making it a challenge to get to the sidewalks. Groveland Police Chief Jeff Gillen says that the department does enforce violations of sidewalks being blocked by vehicles. While it does not appear that the police enforce any snow removal, your insurance company will have something to say if someone is injured on your sidewalk or driveway because of snow or ice. In many other regions, cities and towns, snow removal is the homeowner's responsibility, with specific guidelines right down to how quickly it needs to be shoveled. In Groveland, we are lucky to have such a dedicated highway department working to keep residents safe. Please remember that clearing sidewalks and driveways is on all of us.
Clearing the nearest fire hydrant is also a safe thing to do. The GCN news crew caught up with the Groveland Fire Department in February for their annual ice rescue training. The firefighters practiced rescuing each other from the icy waters of Johnson Pond. They assured us that they were having fun with this training, but we could see how serious they were taking their responsibilities.
Hi, this is Stephanie Bartelt with Groveland Community News Productions, and we're here at VZ Park checking out what the fire department is doing. Can you tell us your name and what you guys are doing here today?
Sure. I'm Assistant Fire Chief Kurt Rashala, and today basically we are doing drilling on the ice rescue sled that we have in our inventory, and the members are basically working to go out, get familiar with the sled, keep their skills up to make sure that we're ready if someone goes through the ice.
And how often do you do this training?
This is our annual training.
Annual training, and tell me about the fire department. Are they all volunteer?
The fire department is made up of mostly on-call, paid on-call firefighters, which is basically volunteer, and we have a full-time fire chief and 2 full-time firefighter EMTs during the day. Sure.
Yeah, Holly team's going to have that. If something goes wrong, the experienced people are going to be the ones that go out in the water and rescue or fix the issue, okay? So not everybody rush out there to try to help. All right.
It looked like it's staying alive. All right, big off. Go into the dam man.
Yep.
Yes. Swap.
All right. Jeff, you're going to have look up to Brady. You'll have a open down.
Nice knowing
Brady, when they come back. Big top one. guys good?
Yeah. Good.
Everybody good?
If you'd like to have this much fun, consider joining the Call Firefighting team by going to grovelandfd.com, scrolling down to find the Recruit tab to apply.
Even with all the snow on the ground, it's that time of year when love is in the air for some of our furry friends. If you see coyotes and skunks during daylight hours, it's because it's their mating season and they are looking for love and a safe and cozy spot for babies. Keep in mind that both of these animals provide us valuable service for us, with coyotes keeping rodents and rabbit populations under control and skunks eating beetles and grubs in your yard. If you don't want to attract animals to your yard, eliminate food sources by removing or securing trash, bird feeders, and open compost bins. Supervise and leash your dogs while outside and keep your cat safe inside. If a coyote is getting too close for comfort, then you can haze them by yelling and clapping at them, or bang pots and pans to drive them away. The goal is to keep them from getting comfortable on your property. You should never haze an injured animal or haze them into a road. Never corner an animal. Got questions? Go to mass.gov/coyotes for more useful information about coexisting with coyotes. Now, speaking of rodent populations, we have a special interview for you today. A very well-known wildlife rehabilitator lives in the Merrimack Valley, and we went to talk to her to learn more about a particular wildlife emergency you may not have heard about. Watch this.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Elaine Temesian Muse, and I would like to introduce you today to Jane Newhouse so that she can talk to us about her work around animal protection and rehabilitation and why it's important for all of us to know more about it. So thank you, Jane, for being with us today.
Absolutely.
Please tell us about your work.
So I rehabilitate injured and orphaned wildlife, which is basically any animal that's not domestic, right? So if you see an injured squirrel or orphaned raccoon in your backyard, you can't take them to a regular vet legally. They have to go to a licensed wildlife rehabilitator. So that's what we do. So any animal that doesn't really have an owner that's out there in the wild that needs help.
How long have you been doing this work?
6 years here in Massachusetts and about 7 years in Georgia.
Wow.
Yeah.
What brought you to this work?
I've just loved animals since I was a kid, and I was a veterinary technician from the time I was 17. I loved working with domestic animals, dogs and cats, but I noted that anytime someone brought a wild animal to the clinic, they didn't have an owner, they didn't have any funding, and there wasn't much we could do for them. And I found them very fascinating and very interesting too. You know, a porcupine is so different from a beaver, from a squirrel. They're all so completely different, and I found that interesting too. So
I understand when we talked earlier that there's some new legislation being proposed to protect wildlife animals, and I wanted to ask you if you could talk to that and how it will work if it's passed.
Sure. So when I first started rehabbing, I went to a conference, and at that conference they were telling us that any predator species that we get, we should test their blood, okay, to see how well it clots, which I thought was really weird. So they were like, if you get a bird of prey, or if you get a fox or a coyote, one of the first things for triage is draw their blood and see how long it takes their blood to clot. Their blood should take 2 to 5 minutes to clot. And I didn't understand why this was so important. They were saying that sometimes they get secondary poisoning. So the animals that eat the rodents, what will happen is a fox will eat a mouse or a rat that's been poisoned, or a hawk will eat one. And if they just eat one, fine. But they don't just eat one. Your average fox will eat 1,800 rodents per year. Your average great horned owl will eat 2,000 per year. And a lot of these rodenticides, these rat poisons, will stay in their systems for 6 weeks or longer. So what happens is you get this bioaccumulation, right? So not one poison rat's enough to kill them, but 10 or 20, over the course of the month would be enough to kill them. So I heard about it. It fascinated me. I never thought about it like that. I never thought about how the food chain would affect how rat poison works and the effects of it. But when I started getting foxes and I did draw their blood, and I was really surprised where most of my mangy foxes had a lot of trouble with their blood clotting too. So a lot of them were poisoned.
Could you explain what a mangy fox
Sure,
is?
sure. Mange is a lot of people. I get tagged on Facebook all the time where people see a fox that's running around our neighborhood like with barely any fur. And they look really scraggly, really skinny. It's this mite. It's sarcoptic mange, is this tiny little microscopic mite that burrows under the skin of their host and can cause lots of itching, skin infections, things like that. It can affect their immune system. When an animal is poisoned, sometimes the poison is not enough to kill them, but it's enough to affect them. It's enough to affect their immune system or compromise them in some way so they're more susceptible to things like that. So a really healthy fox could fight off mange, but a fox that's dealing with poisonous blood not clotting properly might be more susceptible to it. Just like a hawk or an owl that has rat poison in its system, maybe not enough to kill it, but enough to affect its clotting abilities. So many of these birds end up hitting windows. Now, can you imagine the chance of having a brain bleed significantly increases if your blood's not clotting properly?
Right.
So we have animals that it may have died from this, but maybe it would have survived that had it not had this poison running through its veins. So I realized how prevalent it was, and working with federally permitted rehabbers, which are rehabbers that can do birds of prey and other bird species, I was seeing just how much they were seeing it, which was even more than I was seeing it, and realizing what a devastating effect it was having on our wildlife. So this law you're talking about, this legislation, State Rep Jim Hawkins has been trying to pass legislation to get some sort of control over these rodenticides, these rat poisons, typically, mainly the escars, which are your second generation anticoagulant rodenticides. So these ones are the ones that are very persistent in the tissue that are making a lot of these animals bleed out. So he's been trying to pass that legislation so that people will stop using it. And he revamped the bill right now so that it's even more strict, and I believe it's going to be more beneficial to our wildlife. But it's taking so long for the legislative process to go through. He's been working, very adamantly on this since COVID. I remember when he first contacted me about it, and he's worked really hard with a lot of animal groups, the MSPCA, a lot of wildlife clinics and stuff. He's got lots of support. He's got the support of Senator Michael Moore too. So he's been working on it, and we're hoping that can take place to rid Massachusetts of these escars.
Is this something that is this a movement taking place around the whole country? Do you know?
Yes, it already took place in California. So they actually banned it in California.
Well, they did. The whole state.
Yes, the whole state. They did that years ago in California, and Massachusetts is really next up. You know, they're seeing it more in states where there's more people, right? So we're the third most populated state in the country. Where you have more people, you have more businesses, you have more rats, you have more poison. So we're seeing it a lot right here, but even rehabilitators that I've talked to across the country are seeing it. Everyone, especially anybody that rehabs birds of prey, foxes, these animals that mainly predate on rodents are really being affected.
It makes sense because it is a food chain, isn't it?
Exactly. And so the problem with that too, if you think about it, your average great horned owl eats 2,000 rodents per year, and it lives on average 15 years, sometimes longer. So if you think about that, 30,000 rodents in its lifetime that it will eat for free. So let's say you use rat poison to kill the 6 or 8 mice in your house, and you accidentally kill your neighborhood great horned owl. Well, now you can expect way more in your neighborhood the next year, right? Because you don't have this animal for free that's just searching your neighborhood constantly, you know.
That balance is gone, isn't it?
Exactly, this nature's balance. And then we're becoming more and more reliant on these pesticides. So that's another thing to consider, is that it's not even really good for controlling rodents if it's killing the animals that already help us control rodents.
Because you've changed the balance, and that then you're doing it artificially instead of allowing nature to take care of its own.
Exactly. So it's costing you money where it shouldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are local communities doing to eliminate escars from their towns?
A lot of people are coming together. I'm real proud of our state, and I know other states are doing this too, but there are so many advocates and there are so many important wildlife places, like, you know, the wildlife clinics in Massachusetts. There's the MSPCA, Mass Audubon. All these places are working together. So on top of the legislation that Mr. Hawkins is trying to push, you've got Harvard Law that's trying to push MDAR to do the right thing and stop using these escars. And then other people are trying to get their towns and cities to stop using it. So they'll actually go to the Board of Health or their town manager or city councilman and explain to them what's going on and show them proof of what's going on. And we've seen, I believe, 8 or 9 cities and towns now in Massachusetts that have banned it on municipal properties.
So that doesn't mean that the townspeople necessarily have, but the municipality
Exactly.
has.
So for schools and things like that. So when the town is on board with helping the local wildlife, it domino effects too.
Right.
You know, the city of Lowell just unanimously voted to rid their town of not their city of these escars. So all the municipal properties are not going to use it anymore. And they have a very can-do pesticide guy who's willing to try other methods and combinations of things to get rid of rodents, as opposed to just relying on this one very cheap, very deadly poison.
What do people do instead of some of these deadly poisons to rid themselves of an annoying animal?
Gotcha. So for rodents, one of the big things that we don't emphasize enough is exclusion. Exclusion is huge. You can have somebody talking about how they have this rat infestation in their house and they don't know what to do, but you see all these open trash bins that are all along the outside of their house that are basically just calling every rodent. So it's so important to seal off any entry points and to keep trash bins, to keep, you know, chicken food, dog food, things like that from attracting these animals to begin with. Branches that are over people's houses are a great way for rodents to get in. Right. Little things like that to prevent it, first of all, to stop them from getting in. And then there's a new product out called Contrapest, which is actually, it sterilizes the mice and the rats. Now, I know you would think, well, why would that matter? Because you're not killing them, so they're still alive. Well, they breed so fast, that if you can stop them from reproducing, you can at least stop the problem from getting worse. And then you could try snap traps or other things to get rid of the ones you currently have. I went to Salem because they had an issue with we treated an owl for secondary regicide poisoning. And we talked to city leaders about that. And they talked about their mouse, their rat problem. And I went walking around the city and there are just open bins everywhere. And I'm like, it doesn't matter what you use. It doesn't matter what escars or whatever you're using, you're going to keep having a problem. There has to be so much more effort on exclusion.
That makes a lot of sense. And I could see how we tend to treat the symptom instead of the real problem,
Right.
which is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
So is there anything else that you feel that we haven't talked about that you feel that our viewers should know about in terms of the importance of what you and your colleagues are trying to do?
I think the main thing is getting the word out, asking people not to use these poisons, explaining why. Education's huge. I feel like most of the people that I've told just didn't know.
Right.
They just didn't know. They never would have used it if they knew. And unfortunately, there are a lot of pesticide companies saying that it's not true, that it doesn't hurt wildlife, but there's plenty of proof that it does. So it's important to spread that news, to spread that information as much as possible. If you do see a downed hawk or a mangy fox, to try and get it some help, because some of these mangy foxes, it may not even just be mange that they're dealing with. There are a lot of our carnivorous species are dealing with these poisons. We have a fox here that we treated for it. That was, it takes a lot to treat them. We have to do like plasma transfusions, sometimes blood transfusions to save them. So what we have to do is give them vitamin K for weeks and weeks and weeks until the poison's out of their system. The vitamin K takes 2 or more days to start working, and sometimes this animal doesn't have 2 or 4 days to wait for a vitamin to take effect. So then sometimes we're using plasma or blood transfusions to have an immediate effect until the vitamin K works. So we've had plenty that we've saved that way. We have one out here that I'll show you as well. But just spreading the knowledge, spreading the information. Don't be afraid to tell people what it does, and look up other ways and try other ways, especially exclusion.
So Jane, it sounds like this is really expensive. I mean, if you're talking about plasma treatments and vitamin K infusions, where does the money come from? How are you able to keep this going?
It's all donations. We did 62 foxes last year, and each fox costs me about $1,000. If it dies, we have them necropsied, which costs me $1,000 per fox. If it survives between the plasma or a blood transfusion, all the mice and things that we feed them, all the vet care, things like that, it's very expensive. That's why it's very frustrating when I go to towns and they're telling me how they don't want to have to spend more money on rodent control. And I'm like, please don't talk to me about saving money, you know. It's very frustrating, but it's their lives. And when you see what they've suffered, what they've been through, we owe it to them.
Sounds horrible.
We owe it to them to do that. And there are a lot of people that people have donated. We've been given the funds to save these animals. And that just tells you how much the public wants to make this right. And people aren't giving up. And more towns and cities are fighting this. And I fully believe that Massachusetts is going to be the second state in the U.S. to rid ourselves of these terrible things.
So when I, in our conversation today, I was thinking about how critically important this is. And I'm learning a lot. I really wasn't even aware of everything that you've said today. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But I'd like to close with a call to action. If people who are looking at this want to do something, I know you talked about spreading the word, donations, but what would be, let's say, the 3 top things you feel like a regular person could do?
I think the top thing, you could talk to your town or your municipality to see if they are open to ridding their area of these escars. That's huge. Some people have gone so far as to do that. And the nice thing about that is that's an immediate stop. That works so fast. And we're trying a lot of other ways to eliminate it completely in Massachusetts, but that's a quick way to protect the animals in your town or your city. The second one really would be to spread the word. The third one, I guess I would say if you hear of a predator species that's down, definitely make sure you reach out to a wildlife rehabilitator. If you see a bird of prey that's down, especially if an owl in the middle of your yard during the day, something like that, a lot of these animals need help. And if you're aware of the sort of things that are going on, then you can reach out to whoever your local rehabber is.
Okay, so you should make sure you know who the rehabber is. It's
in your area, sure.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay, so it's not someone necessarily in a town hall or a city hall.
No, it never is. Rehabbers are volunteers, and so the state doesn't pay people to rehab. So what will happen is someone's interested in rehabbing, they have to take a course, they have to prove that they can do it, and then the state gives them a license. So people are doing this out of their homes. That's why you're at my house today. So I don't actually work for the town of Chelmsford. I work for Mass Wildlife. Well, I volunteer for Mass Wildlife, but they're all volunteers in all the states, all around the U.S.
So if someone wanted to find out about it, they would just Google.
You could go to mass.gov. If you're in Massachusetts, you can go to mass.gov, and they have, if you search for wildlife rehabilitator, they have an interactive map. It's awesome. And you can put in your zip code, and it will tell you what rehabbers are closest to you, and it will also tell you which ones do mammals, which ones do birds, so you could find who's closest. And you might have to call a few, because keep in mind they are volunteers, and some of them don't do it full time. Most of them are working a full-time job and trying to do this too. But as many calls as you can make, as much as you can advocate for that animal to help them. that'd be great as well.
That's so interesting. Thank you for that. So thank you for sharing your time and your expertise with us today, Jane. Is there anything else you want to tell our audience before we close?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
I think you did a great job.
Thank you.
Okay. And thank you, viewers, for tuning in today. And we look forward to seeing you the next time. Bye-bye.
Oh yeah, Nibby's in the water. Daphne's obnoxious, which I've already warned you. But she's in here. She won't like attack you or anything. Trying to swim. Can you come say hi? You won't come out? Why don't you come out, Boo? Come on. Come out. Come on out. Slowly gotten there. All right, don't die. You've got them tucked in everywhere. So, like, there's possums in here. This was the first room I had before we remodeled the garage. This used to be my only room. It is toasty in here. So those ones were super tiny. We got them off of a mom that was hit by a car, but now they're huge. Ready to go as soon as spring hits. But yeah, so this was all of it for a while.
So that's what I'm thinking is we have a small bed.
Sorry. Lovely weather we're having. Do you see him? He's up there in the corner.
Oh.
You can come closer if you want. He won't like attack you or anything. But he was all but bald when he first came to us. He was in rough shape. So he needed a plasma transfusion to save him. He was one of our poisoned ones. He looks, I'll show you before picture. He looks nothing like he did before. It's beautiful now.
Did you know it's already illegal to keep rodent bait boxes outside? We don't want to kill our wonderful owls, hawks, and eagles in Groveland, nor do we want to kill our four-legged animal friends, including pet dogs and cats, who all love to eat rodents. Keep them safe from rodenticide. You can support the legislation by contacting your senator and representative as seen on the screen now. And if you don't already follow Newhouse Wildlife Rescue on Facebook or Instagram, you're missing out. Check out newhousewildliferescue.org to support her work. Find her podcasts and learn how you can make a difference.
The Trash and Recycling Committee would like to invite you to an information session at Town Hall on Thursday, March 13th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. Learn why increasing cost and dwindling landfill capacities are driving changes in the trash sector. The committee will have survey results and lots of information about automation, barrels, composting, diversion opportunities, and what all this means for you. And that's all we have for you tonight, Groveland. Don't forget to check out our website at gcnnews.net and send tips and ideas to whatsupgroveland@gmail.com. You can find local news by reading the Town Common and by listening to WHAV at 97.9 FM or on their website at whav.net. We'll see you next month.
GCN, Groveland's Community News.